just a really recent example of that is I got invited on a radio show the day the book came out, talking about Wikipedia, and the editor said, "Well, talk about," or not, the moderator of the show, the interviewer, I said, "Talk about harassment on Wikipedia," and I said, "Well, I just want to say a lot of times it's that internet. It's not even like this where we can see each other. It's
right.
See and hear each other. It's Wikipedia is nameless." Or it's faceless usernames, and they're deleting your content or adjusting what you're writing, so it can just seem very impersonal and sort of mean, and that you should understand that it's not often personal. It's like they're thinking about the argument. I mean, sometimes it is though, but a lot of times it's not personal. It's just the facts of editing Wikipedia, and so I got feedback on this one blog that was like, Harrison minimizes harassment on Wikipedia and says if you feel offended, it's your fault. And I was like, one, I mean, I got the question. That was my initial reaction, to it. Two, I've written quite a bit about, actual harassment. I mean, like, people have been stalked for their edits on Wikipedia. People have felt really uncomfortable. People have felt there's an ugly side to Wikipedia, and the same of social media. And I've written about that, right? So it's like, and so I was trying to figure out how much to engage that, and what I went with was just, hey, I'm sorry you felt that way. Here's in the moment I wasn't able to provide the broader context, but here's something that I've written about real problems of harassment on Wikipedia. And so I think pointing to another piece maybe helped, but and I think that with pretty much everything, it's just like a lack of context, and it's not that because I definitely wasn't perfect in that soundbite, but I also heard the question as, differently than like describe everything wrong with Wikipedia. Like I couldn't have done that in the soundbite anyway, I don't know. I think that, you don't know who you're dealing with. And, I will say a few times I've said, hey, just responding to your point, a few times when they realize there's a person there and not like journalist who's like part of like the elite or something, it was like, first of all, I mean, definitely not part of the elite. If you knew how much journalists get paid, you would not consider them like the man, right? It's it just sometimes the engagement has worked pretty well, but then sometimes that just by being noticed, they feel like, oh yeah, no, thanks for responding. Other times it's just like it's a back and you just have to drop it at some point because it's not worth your time, right? There's no right answer on that.
Yeah, and I wonder that does get into kind of like I always like to ask this of writers that come on for this, with the kind of the politicization of everything. Maybe that's social media, maybe that's like just because there's always been partisans, there's always been kind of the left and right people having different views, but then it's like everything gets shoved through that kind of meat grinder of like, we're politicizing this. So you're writing about Wikipedia, not even necessarily talking about a political angle to it. And then people will shove the article through that meat grinder and then start being like, well, you didn't address this thing or whatever. I don't know. But just how do you think that happened? How did it become so hyper politicized, especially writing and publishing publicly and things like that? Like you mentioned, calling journalists like part of the elite. And maybe there's some perches that are relatively elite. If you could look at that, like a New York Times or something, you get a nice salary to be if you're a staff writer there at least, or a columnist, not if you're just freelancing. And people forget that, they confuse the two. But I don't know. How do you feel with that? How did that happen, and how do you deal with it in terms of people putting politics on top of work that isn't necessarily politicized, or accusing you of doing partisan work or something like that?
Well, I've got a better understanding that it's happened than actually how it happened. I don't know the mystery of what
just
went
theories.
wrong is hard for me.
I
think, I mean, Eisenhower talked about the military industrial complex. We've got, where everything was starting to feel military, like even or have imbued with the sense of the military. Even the way they were training kids in math and science was geared towards the military. And I worry we've got the political, and I got this from other pieces, but the political industrial complex where everything now is so political. And, I most worry about it with Wikipedia, because in order for Wikipedia to be trusted, it needs to be seen as sort of above politics and nonprofit and, like sort of rise above.
If you're hearing this, it's because you are listening to the free public feed of Heavy Board. To get complete, uncensored, uninterrupted, full access to this podcast, become a subscriber at patreon.com/heavyboard. That's right, Heavy Board is made possible by subscribers like you. For less than 1 cup of coffee per month, you will receive private access to uncensored, full-length episodes, JerkShop, heavy bonus content, subscribers-only AMA episodes, bonus extended interviews, and more. Come join the conversation today at patreon.com/heavyboard.